Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica. We got a super exciting episode for you guys this morning. My Dreamcast series was not supposed to start until next Tuesday, but overnight, Tuesday into Wednesday, Castlevania Resurrection for the Dreamcast finally went online. And I did not ever expect to see this when it was announced. I figured it would go to the highest bidder, never see the light of day again. So huge credit to the owner of this disc for sharing it with the community. I'm always advocating for stuff like this, and to see this big of a game released for free for any Dreamcast fan or Castlevania fan to take a look at is absolutely amazing. So I was wrong. I didn't think we'd ever see it, and I admit when I'm wrong. I am playing it now. Normally I go through the whole like, subscribe spiel, but let's just talk more about Castlevania Resurrection because this is something I never thought we would get a chance to check out. Obviously it never came out. It was scheduled for the Dreamcast to be released, and it was showing off at E3. There were some previews in magazines and some screenshots, but then it was quietly canceled, and it's been one of those holy grail games for the Dreamcast ever since. Every once in a while another video would come out, but it would be from when the game was still in development, and up until about a month ago nobody knew that this game still existed until a collector put a video up on YouTube showing the beta GDR disc and a little bit of gameplay footage from it. What I'm going to be doing today is touring you through all of the available areas, and I will put up a second upload at 4 p.m. It's about half an hour long, and it is just the raw footage of the gameplay, so you guys can check out as much as you want if you already haven't burnt it to your Dreamcast and checked it out. But really, what are we looking at? Well, it's the beta, probably pre-beta, more like an alpha for Castlevania Resurrection. And you'll see here, there are enemies that you can fight. I will say off the top, of course, this is wholly unfinished. The fighting mechanics, the hit detection are quite wonky. Sometimes you're going to kill an enemy with one whip strike, sometimes it's going to take 10, and sometimes that whip strike's just going to dematerialize right through the enemy. And I will say, control-wise, it's not terrible. It's a 3D Castlevania game. It's definitely better than something like Castlevania 64, but it is still a little bit loose and hard to control. It's hard to say how much of that comes from the actual game design and how much of it comes from it just being a beta. It's really not fair to judge based on an unfinished product, so we want to more talk about the historical aspect of something like this actually coming out. But graphically it looks great. I mean, those ghosts there have some really nice transparencies. The levels are huge. The draw distance is awesome. Everything about the look and feel and sound of this game is something that I wish really did get finished. And as far as the status of this beta is concerned, it's a preview. There's no story really. You know, there is a boss you can fight, and I will show that later on in the video, but there's more here than I expected. Unfortunately, one of the levels corridor does not work. It freezes on load, but I'm sure somebody, a modder in the Dreamcast community, is probably going to fix that pretty soon because these things move fast. So if that happens, I will republish another video checking out that particular area. But you'll see here we have the Castlevania standards. We have the bone skeleton, towers. I've died, and you get this little graphical effect of the camera zooming in and out. But most of the enemies are, kind of things that we've seen before, but I just love how big this open castle area is. It's huge, it's massive. Now, some of the doors in the game do open. I've never been able to open a door in this area, but honestly, I've only played it for 30 minutes, so what do I really know? If you press start, you get a level selection screen, and we're going to move over to the stairs here. It's going to be another really big area in the game. Now, where is this? Is it Dracula's castle? I assume so, because it seems like it starts us outside of a castle in the demo, and then we're able to move further inside. So in the story, I assume that first area we showed you might be the beginning of the game, or maybe you start a little bit further out and get to it, kind of like every Castlevania game, and you move on from there. We have these priests that kind of remind me of enemies from Rise of the Triad, and they're incredibly hard to hit. But what I found is if you use the sub-weapons, those are way more powerful than your whip. And I'm assuming you probably got to charge up your whip, power it up like every other Castlevania game in this demo. But that doesn't work in the demo, so you really want to conserve your hearts, because when you die, you have to start the stage over again. Obviously, there's no lives or continues, but you don't really want to have to go through everything, because I have noticed killing certain enemies or collecting certain things from candelabras will open doors. There's a key icon in the top right hand corner, but as far as I can see, I've never found a key. But there are certain triggers. Kill enough enemies, a door might open. Get a certain power up from a candle, a door may open. So you do want to kill everything to see how much further you can get in these little stages. Now, I don't know that I've seen everything. I presume I have, but I'm sure people are going to start deconstructing the files for this game almost immediately. We may find find that there's ways to go into even further places. But you'll see here that boomerang just destroys that bone pillar so much easier than our whip weapon does. And as we come around the corner here, we are going to encounter a door, and it's just one that never seems to open up. I've destroyed all the candles in this level, I've checked everything out, so I think this is what you get to see. But again, just taking a quick pan with the camera, it's a big stage. It looks great. I love the red. I love the color on the walls. Everything about this looks like a really nice Castlevania game, but it is really unfortunate that we didn't get it. But go ahead and listen to the soundtrack. There's only one track, but it is relatively good, and I'll be back in about a minute. We'll talk more about exactly what you're going to experience in this demo. But enjoy. So now we've moved on to the next area in the game. We're going to be confronted by these 3 pillars with all these boneheads on them. And like I said, the boomerang is going to be your best friend because it's going to knock them apart a lot easier than your whip. But I feel like we're kind of progressing into the castle. We're in this giant, open area. We have this broken bridge and we have another gateway. So I feel like the levels are in the order in which you would expect to see them in the game. But I will say, of course, it is a beta or even an alpha, so it's glitchy. You definitely want to jump there. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck out of bounds. Now it's fun to be out of bounds, and I did look around to see if I could find anything unique, but there is an invisible wall here. So all I'm going to do is reload the level so we can get back into the stage proper. But it is kind of an interesting look at how the engine is functioning. But just make sure you jump there. Now I will say again, the hit detection, it is really iffy. Hitting these guys with the whip is almost impossible, but hitting them with the boomerang is much easier. And one of them seems to have a trigger. Once you kill him, that door in the background is going to open up into a new area. You can't really tell who it is, but you don't need to kill all 5 of them. You'll see there, I killed the second guy, and that door opens up. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to hit a candle. The boomerang is the best power-up that I've used, so I definitely keep that. And of course it is Castlevania, so we got meat in a candle. Definitely beta meat. That doesn't look like much more than a hunk of goo, but it is in there and you can power yourself up with it. And it's definitely glitchy too. You'll see that one priest there just all of a sudden got massive on the stairs. I don't know if that's intentional. I certainly don't think it is, but maybe they were supposed to get bigger in the game. So this door here, it fades out, and unfortunately at this point in time the game crashes. Is there something behind that door? I don't know. How could I tell? Maybe we'll find out. Like I said, corridor just doesn't load whatsoever. That instantaneously crashes the game, but the GDR said that on the label. There's photos of it online, and I'll link to one below. It says corridor does not load. So not really surprising. And now we're into chapel, which is probably the best section of this demo. There's so much stuff going on, but you will see the frame rate's definitely chugging because of that. But I would have assumed that would have been fixed in a retail version had it released. And you'll see now we got some holy water, and I did want to try all the different power-ups that the game offered us. And you'll see as we get closer to enemies too, Sonya has a knife. It doesn't really ever connect with anything. I don't know if it's coded in there correctly, but there is close quarters melee. And you'll see there the holy water model gets stuck on the screen for a little bit. It definitely functions a little strange. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is how thankful I am that I'm actually playing this today. Because I will admit, I was pessimistic and didn't think we'd actually see this, because I'm always advocating on the channel for sharing these betas, alphas, and things that people haven't checked out before, because there's such a huge fan base for these type of things. I always love seeing releases, and I always advocate for them. So like I said earlier in the video, I admit I was wrong. I didn't think we'd ever play this, and here I am playing it and talking about it. So a huge thanks to the owner of the disc. They did a huge service to the community for sharing it. And another thanks to one of my Discord members, Mr. Burns. He messaged me overnight when this went live to let me know about it, and it's the first thing I did when I woke up. I started playing it. So big thanks, Mr. Burns. I appreciate that. But yeah, that is Castlevania Resurrection. It's a real big disappointment that this didn't come out in retail environments, because what I'm playing here seems really promising. The graphics are nice, these areas are huge, the soundtrack, the one track we get, is pretty good, and I just wish we had another Castlevania game to play, but but the next best thing is being able to play this demo. And we're going to get to Medusa really quickly because it does have a boss battle. It's pretty, easy to beat them. Pretty much every enemy in this game can be spammed with sub-weapons, so if you do want to check out the demo and play as much as you can, save your hearts. Because you'll see here in that candelabra, there is a shield, and once we get that, those doors below do open up. So it is possible that there's other doors in the game that I haven't opened that you can, but like I said, this has been out for about the time of recording at 12 hours and the time of you watching it about 36 hours, so who knows what else will be found. You'll see the game hitches when it loads in Medusa, but all we need to do is basically stun lock her. With the boomerangs, we're able to just infinitely hit her and be able to beat it. I do like the model, it's pretty fun. I mean, it's not finished, nothing about this game is, but for what we're seeing, this would have been an awesome addition to the Dreamcast library. But we get to play it, and that is incredible. And she does have a second phase. Her head is just going to come out of her body and get huge. Pretty much a not threatening facial expression. I don't think it's done, but it is fun to see all those snakes wiggling around. Although we haven't really been turned to stone, I am assuming that shield is blocking our vision even if we don't see it appear. But when she's dead, if you just walk around the room a little bit, you're going to find the boss orb, and it's just going to fade right back to the title screen. But that is Castlevania Resurrection. There's more I haven't shown you, and like I said, I will upload the full raw footage from this playthrough at about 4 o'clock today. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, guys. Do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we've got a Patreon link down there as well. But we can play Castlevania Resurrection, and isn't that awesome? Bye-bye.